Hey, internet friend, welcome to Synergy Cafe, also known as the Magic Brad Show. This is your host and MC, the man, the myth, the legend, Bradley G, also known as Magic Brad. So today we have a very interesting topic that my friend Sean came up with. And it came out of left field. I didn't expect it at all, but we normally talk about wealth. And a lot of times wealth is mindset. It's where you think, because some people think money is evil. And it might not be about wealth. Maybe it might be about more wealth and time. It might not be money wealth. So our topic is telepathy and materialism. So let me go get Sean and we're going to start a conversation about that. You stick around and feel free to like, comment, and share. Appreciate that very much. And stay tuned and we'll be right back. Okay. There he is, Shawnee. How you doing?
Doing very well this morning. Good to see you, Magic Brad.
So,
how are you doing?
Wednesday.
Yeah, wealthy Wednesday indeed. Very, very interesting topic, and it's kind of new to me. I just started diving into this podcast that's really pretty new. Just came out last year called the Telepathy Tapes, and very fascinating. And I think it's applicable to what we talk about here on Wednesdays a little bit. And so we'll kind of talk about it a bit.
Well, I've got I wouldn't say a friend, but an acquaintance. It's a musician, and he's doesn't make very much money, and he complains about it a lot. But he also complains about capitalism. Very angry at people that make a lot of money. And
right.
I think spiritually that would distract. It would push that stuff away. Because you're protecting yourself from the evil. So if you think money is evil, it's not going to embrace you. So it's that kind of thing. Then there's the materialism place, the physical world where you actually have to do the work. Because you remember that movie that came out called The Secret?
Yes.
That was controversial because people were talking about you need to get in a proper mindset and think about, I've got Lamborghini in my driveway. And then it doesn't happen because you don't get off the couch.
Right. There's a book, and we'll have to put it in the comments later or the description later, that I read, and it was referred to me by somebody that I met, and this person goes into detail about the science behind The Secret, and I think from a very basic level, even taking a step back a bit, the context around intuition or empathy, or like we talked about earlier, energetic alignment. I mean, these qualities, successful people use these qualities to sense opportunities and to connect authentically. So it's like your friend that you're mentioning, he's kind of blocking that positive energy. He's not in alignment with the energy of these people he kind of hates or whatever.
Yeah. It's kind of like if you go to a party and you don't like the people at the party, you're not going to make any friends, really. I don't like those people. So
I get into conversations with people, who say something like, "Oh, I don't like guacamole, or I don't like this type of food." I'm like, well, guacamole is just a vehicle, really. You can put a lot of stuff in there to make it taste differently. As a matter of fact, you can use avocados to bake, and it makes baked goods like muffins and cakes super moist, and you don't taste the avocado in there. Similarly, if I were to say, "Oh, I don't like all food from the continent of Asia," it's like, well, there's a lot of different food there that you're missing out on, just from blocking out that whole thing. So it's like you said, if I show up to the party and I don't like anybody, it's gonna be impossible to make friends.
Well, there are people that are in the like you talk about the money mindset of things. There's people that believe in the dollar per hour model because that's what we grew up with. You're going to get this much minimum wage. If you that's what you're taking, that's the limit that your employer will give you as far as a compensation. And if you go buy a house that's out of your price range, you're going to be struggling financially just because you limited yourself to the hourly compensation as opposed to maybe doing a side hustle thing that has more of a recurring passive type of income.
Right.
Like there's like how much is a person worth? Well, I'm getting paid $20 an hour. Okay, you're worth $20 an hour. So could I cut off your finger for like $5? Give you $5? Could I cut off your finger? No, you can't do that. Well, why? Because you're only worth $20. It's just your pinky.
$20 an hour, $50 an hour, whatever it is, that dictates everything we're going to do in life, where we live, what we eat, where our kids go to school, everything. And, this intuition around telepathy, which is, by the way, just saying the word telepathy is like a lot of people are gonna turn their mind off or turn off the stream. However, if you stick with us here a bit, I want to ask the listeners a question. How often do you trust your gut or sense a certain vibe in business or family decisions? Right? Like we already know there's more neurons in the gut than there is in the head physically, but when we talk about the mind, it's like how often do we trust that intuition? And as opposed to materialism, what we're focused on in this context, you're focused on the visible assets, right? Like the Lamborghini and the driveway, the investments, the home, that sort of thing.
Well, some people don't, that word turns them off all of a sudden because now you're thinking about the woo-woo stuff and a telepathic. Are you psychic? Can you project thoughts into somebody else's mind and stuff like that? So there is that kind of thing. I don't think it's that mysterious, but like if we're sitting around and all of a sudden I give you a dirty look,
right?
I'm projecting a thought into you. And like you ever gone to an event and there's somebody you just don't, I don't know, I just don't feel right around them. I don't know that really happens.
Right.
So is that person like unconsciously maybe projecting some of their negative energy telepathically through the air into you? And then there's trick stuff too. Like you want me to do a demonstration?
Sure.
I'll do a magic demonstration. So I'm going to project a thought into your head. Okay. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to pretend like you have a deck of cards. You have a deck of cards?
Yep.
Show me the deck of cards. Okay, you got the cards. I want you to take them out of the box. Okay. Now shuffle them up, mix them all up so the cards are all in different order.
All right.
And I want you to go through the cards and I want you to look at one of the cards. Now don't think of like the jokers because those are usually discarded from the pack or the aces are common. Just pick one of the cards in your mind and pull it out of the deck and visualize yourself taking it out of the deck.
Okay.
Now look at it and remember it. And now turn it so it's face down and slide it back into the deck so it's opposite of all the other cards in the deck.
Got it.
Okay, now did you do that?
Mm-hmm.
Square the pack back up and then put it back in the card box. You got it? And hold it up there in front of the screen.
Yep.
Now I want you to take it and I want you to throw me the pack.
Throw you the pack.
Throw it to me.
Okay.
Okay, I got it. I got the pack of cards. Now, you thought of the card, you saw the card, you turned the card over. What was the card that you were thinking of?
I was thinking the ace of spades.
Ace of spades? Okay, that's kind of a common card. So let me go through the pack. You're thinking of the ace of spades.
Right.
Okay. So I'm going to go through the pack. We'll try and find somewhere in here. You turned it over, right?
Yep.
Oh, there. Okay, there's one card that's turned over. Now, isn't that weird? This whole pack here, wouldn't that be interesting if that was the ace of spades?
Yeah.
You take it out.
Wow. That's awesome.
A miracle.
That's awesome.
So now that was a magic trick. So that wasn't no real telepathy kind of thing. So that's where people get I think they don't believe in the real law of attraction stuff because they say, oh, that's just a trick. But you need to know the difference between the stuff that's a trick and the stuff that ends up being real, like we were talking about before, about just making a suggestion to somebody. They're going to feel things different ways.
And I like what you said about someone's face, right? Because I know somebody who took a very expensive mental testing, right? They were looking to make sure they had a diagnosis from somebody they wanted to, and they had the money to spend on a very expensive test here in the Twin Cities. And they shared the result of this testing with me. It said, yeah, they say I have ADHD, so that's what I was looking for, whatever. They go through all the different results, and they share with me that they're in the 99th percentile for people who can look at someone's face and make a positive, how do I say, they have a really good intuition about what someone's mood is just from seeing their face. So if they're out in public, they can see someone's face and just know kind of what mood that person's in. The dilemma is this person will, if that person has a frown, let's say, they may take that in and for some reason think that that person's frowning because of something that they did, if that makes sense. So it's just an interesting thing. I'm thinking the 99th percentile. I'm like, you're in that spectrum of telepathy in a way. You're able to really pick up on someone's vibe, someone's mood, someone's emotion just from seeing their face quickly. And that's like a lot of us can't hide. We have so many muscles in our face, and we can't consciously hide like what we're going through. That's why you go around a good friend. It's easy. They're like, hey, are you all right? You going through something? Like, yeah, I'm fine. They're like, something's not right.
Yeah. That can happen just like you're having a phone conversation where they can't even see the face, but the tone of the voice is, you seem a little off today. What's going on, Sean?
Right.
Oh, my dog just died. Gee, I knew there was something,
Wow.
You can just pick up on that kind of stuff.
It's interesting too. In the podcast, one of the episodes, the telepathy tapes, it brought up this story that I recently heard, not recently, but I've heard in years past. And again, I don't have the details, the names of the guy or whatever, but this guy and his wife started a preserve in Africa for wildlife. And they heard about these elephants that were terrorizing this town due to population increases or whatever. And so this guy wanted to bring these elephants to this nature preserve that him and his wife purchased and had for animals. And so he went to go live with these elephants. He almost got stampeded, but he earned their trust, right? And I don't know how many years later, this guy passes away, and these elephants walk like 2 days to the guy's house, and they just post up there. They're just standing there for 2 days, making these groans of like they're mourning the guy. Well, like how do they know the guy died? And if you think it's a fluke, why did they show up for years after? Every day on the same day they would show up, these elephants.
Sure.
And it's just miraculous. And so stories like that, they really make me a believer in the ethereal, like we were talking about, and the non-physical. And I think when it comes down to like business, because I know we're going to share this on LinkedIn, and not that intuition is practical, however, like we started the episode with, if we're able to focus on our mindset for practical planning, whether it's for business or in my field, we help with people with their legacy planning. This could help with the mindset, right? Where you're not feeling empty or disconnected. And it's like in my field, we deal with people for end of life planning. The one thing that's going to be guaranteed is that we're going to pass away. That's one guarantee. The second guarantee is probably it's going to be uncertain. You're going to have uncertain feelings at that time. There's no way you can pinpoint how you're going to feel when someone passes away, right?
Right.
However, with planning for it, that's going to potentially help mitigate some of that mindset. And so I liked how we started. We're talking about the mindset and intuition. That's the kind of the context around telepathy that I think we're talking about.
Well, sometimes those affirmations where I'm a millionaire, I am a millionaire. You keep on doing I am a millionaire, and then you go to your bank account and there's only $340 in there, and you think, well, that's not working. But do you really believe it when you say I am a millionaire?
Mm,
You need to
right.
actually believe it, even if it's not true. And if you just believe it, at least you feel better about yourself because you feel like a millionaire. You know,
Yes.
like I like candy. So sometimes in the morning I'll have my cup of coffee and I'll have candy. And the candy that I chose is this one right here, the 100 grand bar. So in my mind, I'm thinking $100,000. And I remember the store ran out of these, and I was looking at the candy bars, and I found Payday, which is another candy bar. So I got that candy bar because I like candy bars, and it puts me in that positive mindset, not thinking about the negativity of the bank account. And it just puts you in a better spot because if you're going to do business with somebody, say a big real estate deal or one of your clients, you know, oh, I really like to hire you for your services, but I don't have any money and I don't feel very good. And it's like, I don't know if I want to do business with you. You're a pain, even if you could help them. So it means a lot of what your energy is, how upbeat you are. And when you walk into a room, are you smiling and charismatic and at least trying to be, rather than being a schlump?
Yeah, it's interesting. When there's a lot there that you said. Like the belief is huge, and I think there's getting in that state of mind. So, for example, I heard a guy talk about this once, where he was saying that he would read over his goals every day, twice a day, which is kind of hard. I'm trying to do that now, morning and night. But the way he would do it is interesting. He would imagine that his goal is on top of this mountain, and he's at the base of the mountain, and he knows that. However, he closes his eyes and he imagines a helicopter takes him up to this top of the mountain and drops him off with his goal. So he can visit his goal, his accomplished goal, every day, every morning, and every night. And then he tries to imagine what it feels like to have those goals. And then he gets back in the helicopter and goes back down. And he kind of imagines, each day is like a step going up to the top of that mountain, something like that.
Uh-huh.
But a brief part of my story was when I moved to Minneapolis area, met a young lady, and we got married right away. What was interesting was that before I moved here, I wasn't sure if I was going to stay or how long I was going to stay. I told my dad, "Hey, I'm gonna move across country," and he paused for a second. He said, "Really?" And he said, "You're going to move there and get married." And he was just very matter of fact about it. He wasn't like joking. He didn't, punch my shoulder. Hey, you're gonna get married. It was just like he paused, which was interesting, and he just said that. And
Huh.
and Brad, I just accepted it. So I accepted it, and I thought about it, and then when I moved here, I expected it.
Right.
And what was interesting was after it happened, it kind of happened so fast. It was literally 5 months after we met. I thought to myself, I expected this already. Now I didn't go as far as to imagine what it would be like to be married, but I remember distinctly expecting it, and it was kind of hard for me to even acknowledge or admit that out loud,
Mm-hmm.
initially. However, now I try to remember what it felt like to expect something, and I think that's part of this secret. That's
That's
part
when I
of
think
the
it comes into materialism
right,
because now you're married.
right.
It's the real, it really happened when before it was just a concept. Like you
Hmm.
talked about that meditation. There's a friend of mine, Paul Sheely. He's a local guy here, and he's got a meditation where you're at the bottom of this mountain, and there's these I can't remember what he calls them, but they're not warriors, but they're people that are in charge of certain areas of this trip up the mountain, and they're wearing like a yellow robe, and then the next one's wearing a red robe, and then a green robe, and you go to this first area, and it's kind of like having a new, fresh mindset, and you get rid of all your baggage, and you look out into this field, and you talk to this ambassador or whatever, and yes, you can leave all of your stuff here. So if you've got things that no longer serve you, you let them go and you put them in the field. Then you go to the next level, and each ambassador, if you will, has a different message of, now you got a different mindset. You're going to accumulate things. This is the place of like wishes and dreams, manifesting reality and all that. And it's kind of interesting meditation. You get all the way to the top of the mountain, then you work your way all back down the mountain, looking at all the stuff that you got rid of, and now you're at the bottom of the mountain. So it's really cool when you mention that. I just think it's really cool. All these different guys and colors with these, a yellow staff and a yellow robe, wearing a yellow hat, and I don't know if you were into the chakra system, but it was developed off of that. There was the different levels of chakras, the colors.
So, yeah, I recently, a couple months ago, I found this bracelet, and I can't remember where I found it. And I picked it up. I was like, oh, this is very colorful. I said, these stones look real. I was like, oh, whatever. So I just started wearing it. I kind of held it for a second and kind of just, not really prayed over it, but just said, this is mine now. This is whoever had it before. None of their vibe. This is all my vibe now. Sure. I started wearing it, and somebody saw it and said, oh, wow, that's a chakra bracelet. And you got all these different stones. You got this stone, and it has pairs of stones all around it. And I was like, oh, cool. I literally just found it. And so I like stuff like that. I like connecting the dots, and as I'm building my business First 24 plan, I'm developing the core messaging. I'm talking to different people about it, getting feedback, and I'm getting these different kind of signs from the universe about, and I'm kind of trying to follow this path, and that's why I think it's super interesting to be able to just open my mind to the potential of the ethereal. And I just remember the name of that book. The guy's name is Dr. James Doty, I believe, and he was recently on a podcast with Mel Robbins. And if anybody hasn't heard of him, find that episode of the Mel Robbins podcast. What's amazing is when they start their conversation, like 30 seconds into it, he's in tears. And there was just something so authentic about it. And I didn't recognize his name as the person who I read that book. But then as they're talking, I'm like, oh, I think I read this guy's book recently. And the way I read that person's book was I was looking for a speaker for a networking event. I put it out on Facebook randomly in a Facebook group. This lady messaged me. We had a great conversation on the phone. And she's like basically giving me a free coaching session. And she's like, you know why people give you free coaching sessions? She's like, my idea is that people can sense something in you. And so they just want to help you. They just want to help give you guidance. So she mentions this book. It dives deep. I mean, so deep into meditation, Brad, that I'm like, I can't even take notes on this. I need to I was trying to listen to the audiobook version. And I'm like, oh no, I need the physical copy because I can't even keep up with. But he starts off with the research, the science behind it. And then I saw him on Mel Robbins' podcast, and I was like, this is the guy.
What's the guy's name again?
I believe it's James Doty.
James Doty and Mel Robbins.
Yeah, he's on Mel Robbins' podcast, and it's an amazing episode. Obviously, Mel Robbins is incredible. And yeah, James Doty, D-O-T-Y. And the book is called Mind Magic. And it's incredible.
Check that out, Mind Magic. Absolutely. I'm going to Google it.
It's incredible. And it's, no matter what your religious beliefs are or whatever, this guy really breaks down, from a scientific perspective, the secret, what it's all about. And at the end of the day, it comes down to knowing yourself, comes down to creating space to allow yourself to go within. I mean, anyone can benefit from closing your eyes and taking a break for a second, That's kind of where it starts. Well,
you do kind of have to do that. I think people should do it more often. You know, you don't have to meditate for 2 hours or 20 minutes. Sometimes it's just a matter of, like you said, just close your eyes for a minute, breathe a little bit, just kind of chill out, say nothing really matters but the present, and kind of like an Etch-a-Sketch. You got to start over sometimes and to reboot things. But I believe in all that stuff, the colors and things. It just makes sense scientifically. There's the light that you can't see, and then there's the colors that we can see. The spectrum, but there's stuff out there that you cannot comprehend. You can't see it. Same thing with sound waves. Certain things vibrate and you can hear them, but some things are at levels where you can't hear them. So it's the same kind of vibe, if you will.
It's so true. A couple things on that. For people who are unable, who choose not to just take a moment to relax, we already know anxiety kills, right? So if your body is tense and you don't take the time to just, like for me, my tail is my left shoulder. When I relax, it drops down.
Sure.
So I can always check in with that somatic response with my body. I can check in there. But as soon as we relax and we're not stressed, because if your body's perpetually stressed, it's a killer. It's gonna
Yeah, it constricts your blood vessels, and if the blood don't go to the heart, it can't go up to the brain, can't oxygenate, and eventually something happens, like it happened to me with that little stroke that I had. It sneaks up on you, the stress thing. You don't even know it, and that's why you need to consciously take that little break and go, you know what? Nothing really matters right now. I'm just going to chill for a couple minutes.
Right. And after this, I want to talk to you about a business idea I had. But I think when it comes back to business and marketing, there's this cool interview with this guy Lex. I can't remember his last name, but he has these podcast episodes. They're like 2 hours long. I don't think I've ever sat through an entire one. Lex Friedman. He always wears a suit. He's like a black belt. He interviews this spy. I guess he's retired. He's a retired spy, allegedly. And this guy talks about, Lex asked him, hey, what's the number one thing that you would leave with somebody, like a spy tip that you would leave that could benefit viewers or listeners of the podcast? And the guy says, he explains the difference between perception and perspective. And he talks a lot about, we all have our own perception, like you were saying.
I think I saw that.
Yeah, it's gone viral. It's like, hey, my perception is this much of the this much of the ultraviolet light spectrum, this much of sound waves, right? Or it's what I want, my hierarchy of needs. Whereas if I want to really sell more, have better relationships, connect with people better, be the life of the party, whatever that is, I need to really consider, not just consider, but really, really deeply go into someone else's perspective. Mm-hmm. And so for me, as somebody who's trying to do better in business and acquire clients, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm trying to think that, and I think that personality typing has really helped me with that. How to understand how I communicate, how I relate to other people, how I make decisions based on my personality style, and also how to collaborate with people more. But yeah, just big shout out to the telepathy tapes. It's out there, for people who aren't really into it, but I think it's based on science, and that's kind of what influenced me to talk about this idea and how to relate it to intuition and business and wealth.
Yeah, and it does. I think everything's kind of integrated. Like you talked about that perspective and the perception thing. Perspective to me is like the point of view. What are you looking? How are you looking at this? And then the perception is how are you taking it in? Like I saw this thing. I think it was just this morning I saw it, or also it was late last night. There was a picture of a guy showing 3 fingers, and then it had another picture of him at an angle like this. So depending on how you're looking at it, it either looks like someone's giving you the finger or they're saying 3 different things.
Right.
So it's point of view. Sometimes I get that sometimes driving down the freeway and some guy cuts you off and you wonder, Grr! Or maybe they just didn't see me. I've done that. So why get all angry and, like I said, stressed out at this bastard that cut me off when maybe it was just somebody just didn't see you? Chill out a little bit.
Be careful if you're driving next to a Camaro. They have the worst blind spots of any car. They got that super small back window. They got the little side window. I mean, they can't see you. Be careful if you're next to a Camaro.
Yeah, well, that's a good point with perspective. When I'm driving, I think it's called defensive driving. I'm looking at what's going on with those people. What are they? They can't see me. Like these guys that drive in the back of a truck and get all mad. That truck can't see you at all, and you're sitting there behind them.
Right.
That's a whole nother topic. We could talk forever about driving.
Yeah, I lost the only points I lost on my driver's test was for not honking when there were kids playing up ahead.
Oh, really? You didn't beep beep?
I never would have thought to honk during my driving test. However, and now I honk all the time. I'm like, hey, I lost points for this, so I'm honking.
Well, that was a thing. That's a thing because like you can't tell if it's an angry honk or a friendly honk. When I do a friendly one, I try and do a beep beep, and not long.
Right.
It's more deep deep. I think there should be 2 horns on a car. There should be a get the hell out of the way horn and a, hey, I'm sorry horn.
I think there's a business idea there. We would like it because we don't like selling tangible products. However, I heard a stand-up comedian, probably multiple stand-up comedians talk about this. And I think it's a really significant, serious idea. Is to get like the nice horn or whatever.
Yeah, maybe you should have a keyboard in your car instead of a horn.
Because custom horns used to be really big.
Yeah, I had a 55 Chevy that had 5 horns on it.
Nice.
I had a stock horn, a Uga horn, a wolf whistle horn. God, I can't remember the other ones. I got a big air horn. I had 5 horns on my 55.
It's not a bad idea. I don't like the idea of selling physical products.
Well, sell the idea. A multi-million-dollar idea. We can't talk about it right now, though. We can talk about it after we shut this thing. We don't want anybody taking our idea.
I do want to share one idea with you to see what you think.
Well, we've gone for 32 minutes and 40 seconds. If you want, we can end this little thing if you guys have had enough of us.
I think they probably have.
I think we've done a lot with telepathy and materialism in a wealthy world. That was an interesting topic. I appreciate you giving us that option because that wasn't what I was thinking at all. That wasn't my perspective.
Awesome.
Okay, Sean, I'm going to put you in the green room. Go ahead and enjoy those digital hors d'oeuvres. They're all free. Stuff your pockets.
Thank you.
There you have it. That was my friend Sean Hurdle. He helps people with the end of life stuff. Sometimes you don't know what's going to happen. I don't know when I'm going to go. Sometimes I think I'm going to go the next day, but then I'm still here. I wake up again. Unless maybe I'm dead and then this is just a delusion. I don't know. Okay. I appreciate you for tuning into the Magic Brad Show, also known as Synergy Cafe. If you want to know more, you can go to those websites. You know how to find me. Just Google it. Or maybe these days you go to Chat GPT and you'll find me. I don't know. Take care. Be good. Be kind. Be nice.